Siguiente orador en mi lista es Su Excelencia Flávio Roberto Bonzanini, Secretario General de la Organización para la Proscripción de las Armas Nucleares en América Latina y el Caribe, OPANAL. Puede dirigirse a la conferencia ahora.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please allow me to congratulate you upon your election as President of the 10th Review Conference of the NPT. It is always a pleasure to work under the guidance of a very distinguished diplomat from our Latin American and the Caribbean region. I pledge the full support of OPANAL to you and your team for the work ahead. As requested by the Preparatory Committee, the Agency for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Latin America and the Caribbean presented a memorandum regarding the activities of OPANAL, in which was also included information concerning compliance with the Treaty of Tlatelolco by its member states, a description of the agency's relations with other nuclear weapon-free zones, other intergovernmental organizations, and NGOs. Mr. President, after 2 long years of a global crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are finally able to meet in person to review the implementation of the NPT and chart the way forward. However, unlike previous conferences, a conference of nuclear weapon-free zones in Mongolia did not precede this review conference. The convening of periodic conferences of the states belonging to the nuclear weapon-free zones in Mongolia is of the utmost importance. Hence, I call upon all states belonging to nuclear weapon-free zones to agree on the dates for the convening of the 4th conference and collectively choose its coordinator. This atypical situation should not set a precedent, by no means, and we expect that the next review conference will be held immediately after the Conference of Nuclear Weapon-Free Zones, as it has been the case since 2005. Since the last review conference, the risk has increased, and today the possibility of a new military and nuclear competition that will endanger international peace and security is real. With great concern, we come to this review conference facing challenges that we have not encountered since the 60s of the last century. The dismantling of historical agreements and the erosion of international norms force us to do everything possible to reaffirm our collective commitment. Mr. President, the Treaty of Tlatelolco, the NPT, and the CTBT establish norms of international law and are a suitable legal basis for the process aimed at completely eliminating all nuclear weapons in a transparent, verifiable, and irreversible manner. The TPNW complements the prohibition norm established by the Treaty of Tlatelolco and represents an effective measure to implement Article 6 of the NPT. It is not casual that the member states of OPANAL played a crucial role in the negotiation, adoption, and entry into force of the treaty. In line with their historic commitment to nuclear disarmament, more than 70% of the OPANAL member states have signed and ratified the treaty. And more recently, the TPNW achieved its universalization in the Central American region. Also, the recent ratification of the CTBT by Dominica was translated into the universal adherence to this treaty across Latin America and the Caribbean, which represents an important step towards its universalization. For this reason, we urge the states included in Annex 2 to the CTBT that have not yet done so to ratify it without further delay. OPANAL is convinced that disarmament and non-proliferation education is an effective means to contribute to the consolidation of international peace and security. The agency has been successfully implementing courses on disarmament and non-proliferation and other joint initiatives. Likewise, equal, full, and effective participation of all people is essential for the promotion and maintaining of peace and security. We hope this review conference integrates gender considerations during its work and considers the imperative need to ensure gender equality and the full empowerment of women in the process in all decision-making levels around nuclear disarmament, non-proliferation, and the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. Mr. President, the states parties to the Treaty of Tlatelolco, true for their nuclear disarmament tradition, submitted a working paper with punctual recommendations for consideration, convinced that all efforts must be exhausted to achieve the success of this 10th review conference. Therefore, Latin American and Caribbean states urge the conference to include these elements in a final document. I wish you, Mr. President, and all of the states parties a successful review conference. Thank you, Mr. President.
Agradezco al secretario general de la Organización para la Proscripción de las Armas Nucleares en América Latina y el Caribe, OPANAL, por su intervención y por las amables palabras dirigidas a la presidencia.